Good morning. Thanks for having me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about collaboration and partnership today. So I'm going to take a little bit of a broader stance before we sort of dive into the loyalty, which is good for you guys because I don't really know a ton about loyalty. So I do work for Mastercard. A little bit of overview on Mastercard. About a 40-year-old public company, 10,000 employees, 210 countries, 43 billion transactions a year, trillions of dollars. We just announced our corporate earnings, $3.9 billion in net revenue against about $10 billion in top line. So it's very profitable. It's good to be a network. So this is a traditional view of the network. You have Mastercard in the center, you've got issuers, you've got acquirers. I just learned all this stuff in the last year. ISOs and all that kind of good stuff. Way over there you have merchants. Early on in our existence, we mostly catered to the top 200, 300 bricks and mortar merchants. And over here you have customers, cardholders, and we don't cater to any customers really per se, but our banking partners carry those. So really big company, very, very small customer base traditionally. I'll show you a little bit of my role now. So this is a new way of looking at Mastercard. In the center of our universe are digital partners. And I'll sort of explain what digital partners mean to me in a little bit. Around the center, and I'll get into some of these in a little bit with some examples in terms of how we collaborate and how we partner with folks. But my world is really centered around a variety of Mastercard products, services, and innovation platforms. So at the very, very top, marketing, incredibly important to us from a brand perspective, and how we work with partners. We've created a whole suite of e-commerce enablement products. The center piece is MasterPass, which is a digital wallet. It's a big initiative for our issuing partners. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. One of the things people don't know much about us is we're heavily involved in investment, mentorship, and acquisition. So about 10% of my time in the Valley is spent looking at potential fintech investments, things we might want to invest in. Most of the stuff is fintech B2B. We're pretty low-key about it. We don't like to cause a big stir about it, but we love to talk to all types of fintech companies. We also have a number of accelerator programs. We're big on mentorship. So we've got a program called Start Path where we put fintech entrepreneurs in it. It's about a 4 to 6 month program. We generally have about 40. We've had about 40 companies that we've mentored. We give them access to Mastercard technology and executives for advice. We do not take a piece of the company. So we reserve a right down the road to potentially invest in the company. So we don't sort of milk them dry while they're young, but we try and mentor them. We also partner a lot with folks out here. So I spent a bunch of time with Silicon Valley Bank, 500 startups, a number of VCs. We participate in something called Commerce Innovated in conjunction with Silicon Valley Bank, where we actually, again, mentor fintech startups. And we've got about 10 people in that class as well. Down in the lower left-hand side, a lot of card programs. So anything from co-brands and corporate cards to prepaid card programs with a variety of partners. So we've got a number of program managers that we work with in Silicon Valley. It's not always a deal where Mastercard may want to participate. Sometimes it's better for us if we just bring in a partner. It'll get done, the job will get done faster. The partner may offer more flexibility in terms of how they work with a customer. Sometimes the customer's not big enough and doesn't have the bandwidth to deal internally with Mastercard, so we bring in a program manager and they do a great job supporting our customers. I'm going to talk a little bit about data in a bit, but if you think about it, we've got gobs and gobs and gobs of purchase data on the merchant side and the consumer side, and over the last couple of years, we've done a really nice job of actually productizing our purchase data and created a product set that we sell in the marketplace. Really big initiative for it. It's so big, we actually bought another data company called APT last year for $700 million. And if you listened to our CEO, Ajay Banga, talk, what he said is he'd like to have 40% of Mastercard revenue coming outside of the network by 2020. And a big chunk of that revenue is going to come from our data products that we sell in the marketplace. Another area that we collaborate is something that we call Mastercard Labs. And it has two faces. We have an internal facing part of Mastercard Labs, which is basically, it's kind of an internal think tank. We develop products. We've got offices in Singapore, Nairobi, and Dublin. We foster entrepreneurship. We have all kinds of internal things, hackathons and stuff like that. The goal is to create innovation outside of the regular job, and sometimes we take those products to market. And then externally facing, we've got a program called Launchpad, which again is really a collaborative product that we actually will bring in an external customer, and we do a 5-day collaboration. The customer may have a problem or a challenge as it relates to something commerce enabled. We'll get a bunch of people from Mastercard, we'll go sit in a room for 5 days, and we'll actually create a solution. And some of those solutions we've actually taken to market with some of our customers. It's a really, really cool program that we offer our customers. We provide a lot of network advice. A lot of the things that I do when I meet with customers is help them understand things in their business like declines. It's not sexy, but it can cost a lot of dollars in lost revenue, especially for companies that are increasingly growing overseas. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit more about loyalty and true access and the things we do. So this is my world, digital commerce. I was specifically hired, I live in Silicon Valley, I live in Los Gatos. I've been here my whole career. I've actually only been to corporate headquarters and purchased New York twice. So I really stay out here. My world is digital commerce. And by digital commerce, it's not just e-commerce, it's anybody who's transacted, right? And it's not just big transactions and startups. It's companies that we think are really strategic. It's companies that we think have a lot of promise to grow, right? And so some of the areas that we work in are marketplace companies. Really, really interesting phenomenon, right? Driven by Uber and Lyft and the marketplace of everything, right? We love marketplace companies. What you have is lots and lots of transactions, right? And then 85% of the dollars that come in the front door go out the back door, right? Again, more transaction flow. So we love those types of opportunities because it's a challenge for us to create ways of moving money around that benefit our customers and their employees or their contractors. So we work a lot with subscription companies, non-destination payment companies, non-payment destination companies, big buckets of traffic like Pinterest or Twitter that are just starting to think about e-commerce. Well, we want to be there when we're starting to think about e-commerce and payments and how we might work with them. So we're moving in and building relationships with these companies early, even if they don't sell anything, even if they don't accept MasterCard right now. Factoring and lending, a really interesting space. It's a new phenomenon that's being spurred by the Silicon Valley companies. They just do, they have these really young, smart companies. They do a better job of assessing risk, and they move quickly, right? So they're able to move against big banks, smaller banks, and fill a space that is wide open. So again, really interesting marketplace. We spent a lot of time with a bunch of these companies. And finally, SaaS and data companies. Because of our data product initiative, we've built a lot of partnerships with SaaS-based companies and data providers. So with this new focus on digital commerce, you have to sort of create a new concept and a new team. In the olden days, Mastercard is a pretty siloed company. What you have is somebody who's either calling on a vertical, like airlines, so I call on 5 airlines, and that's my world. Or I sell products. I sell a data set, or I sell fraud, or I sell this. I do neither of those. What I do is I'm sort of a floater, if you will. So I look sort of horizontally across the digital landscape. Our team is exclusively set up in Silicon Valley, so we have an office here in San Carlos. I'm from here, I live here. I don't have much payments experience at all, but what I do have is a lot of knowledge and expertise in digital commerce and just internet companies in general. Our sole focus is digital, so I don't do anything with bricks and mortar companies or anything outside of the digital space. There's more than enough opportunity in the digital landscape for us to be completely focused on that. The value that we provide for merchants here is we really want to be their single point of contact. So one of the things that's happened in the past is, Mastercard, a pretty aggressive company. You have 7 or 8 guys from Mastercard call up somebody at Uber, or Lyft, or Pinterest because that's the new digital giant. Everybody wants to talk to them. Very confusing for our customers, right? And so what we are is the single point of contact for these big companies. We actually sort of ride shotgun. We help them out. If somebody at Mastercard wants to talk to one of these companies, they kind of go through us, and we actually try and sort of throttle it so it's in the best interest of the customer. We find from a timing perspective, it's definitely in the best interest of the customer, but it's also in the best interest of Mastercard, so we don't waste a lot of cycles in some of these companies, and we don't overstay our welcome, right? There's nothing worse than being a pain in somebody's butt. So our team has cross-functional expertise, and so I'm a generalist. I'm not an expert in fraud or loyalty or data, but what I do is bring in the experts. And so when we have an opportunity for collaboration with a partner, we find out what the challenges are, we prioritize those, and then we bring in the people from Mastercard that we think will do the best job and help them solve the problems. Because of this, we have actually really broad access to everything within Mastercard. So that part is really cool. We have a lot of resources within the company, a lot of products, a lot of really smart people, and we actually can bring them to bear on behalf of our customers. The goal ultimately is to build long-term relationships with digital commerce companies. And it's not just big companies, it's small companies as well. So I work with a ton of startups that we think have a lot of promise. We love the space that they're in, we love the technology that they've created. We think there's an opportunity for them to grow big. We want to grow with them, right? Ultimately, our goal is to figure out what's in the best interest of our customers, because if we do that, we ultimately think that we will maximize exposure and revenue on behalf of Mastercard. So Silvio asked me for a bio on me. Here's my infographic bio. I don't know anything about payments. I was specifically hired because I didn't know anything about payments. And so the idea was, well, he knows Silicon Valley, he's been here a long time, he's got a big Rolodex, we can teach him payments. And so, as you can see, I mostly have worked in Silicon Valley technology companies. So Netscape, Yahoo, did some private equity stuff, ran a couple of companies. Payments are hard. It took me a long time, about a year, to really learn payments. Believe me, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I know sound bites, and I know when to bring in really smart people to work with our customers, and that's what I do. So I want to go back and just quickly give you guys a couple of examples in terms of back to that big sort of chart that I showed about some of the things that I work on. Want to dig a little deeper into a couple of them and give you guys some examples in terms of how we partner and how we collaborate in the marketplace. So marketing is a big initiative for us. You all have heard the priceless campaigns. Mastercard essentially as a network is a brand. And so we spend a lot of dollars in the marketplace to drive brand engagement, drive brand preference. You see here, most of our stuff is not card-centric. So we leave it up to Citibank and Chase and all of our card partners to go specific into the merits of their cards over another card. Our stuff is really holistic brand stuff. And we think it's in the best interest of the brand and the best interest of all of our partners. The campaign that we're sort of sticking with is priceless. And we've extended priceless now to cities, causes, and specials. But it's very aspirational. We do a lot of stuff with charities. And the idea is really about brand engagement aspirations. So we've done some really, really cool things in the marketplace, and I can show you a little bit about it. So here are some of the programs that I've actually put together and I've worked on in the last year to show how we collaborate in the marketplace, and it's literally all over the map. We sit in a room with a customer, we find out what their big initiatives are for the year, and then we think about how we might participate. So we don't have a playbook for what to do. A lot of it is just off-the-cuff brainstorming and collaboration. So Blizzard is a partner of ours, Blizzard Entertainment. They're a big gaming company. It's not something you would normally think that we would be involved on, but it's a very, very sticky audience. They're very loyal. It's a 20-year-old company. They've been around forever. And we actually sponsored their gaming convention called BlizzCon this year. And so if you went to BlizzCon, which I went to for the first time, it was crazy. It was literally 25,000 people in the Anaheim auditorium, and there were probably about 25,000 computers set up, and people were just playing games of all different types. And Mastercard was sort of all over the place, and we did some contests with them. If you use your Mastercard, you could potentially win some headphones and some games and stuff like that. So it's a very sticky show. It's a very loyal audience. We love working with them, and you're going to see us do some more things with them this year as well. What you see here is a video that does not play, unfortunately. It's a partnership we did with Lyft last year around priceless surprises. So Lyft is a good partner of ours. This is a very aspirational thing, and it was content. So basically, somebody called Lyft in New York. We showed up with this giant white limo with like pink cushions and all these kinds of cool things. We picked these people up and we took them on a shopping spree. And then we filmed the whole thing, and it was just awesome. Really, really fun. And we're going to be doing more of the priceless stuff with partners like Lyft this year. Down below are a couple of little programs we've done. We work a lot with Pinterest. I'll show you a little bit about what we did with them in a little bit. Again, not a company you would think about transactions. It's mostly just an aspirational sort of site where you flip through and look at all kinds of cool pictures. But Pinterest launched something called Buyable Pins in November. Right? So they're just dipping into commerce. That's the time when you want to launch with somebody, when they're just dipping into commerce. And so we partnered with Pinterest on the launch of their Buyable Pins, and I'll show you a little bit of what we did with them in a minute. We work with a company called Gifty. We've done a lot of promotional stuff with them over the holidays. Basically, if you bought a Gifty, which is a virtual gift card, using your Mastercard, you would get a $10 certificate. So we sold 5,000 of those in a couple of days right before Christmas. Very, very powerful, very, very successful. And we're about to launch with a company called Topingo. Again, not a traditional company that you might think Mastercard is working with. Topingo is a startup. They focus mostly on the educational marketplace. They do delivery and ordering in 150 college campuses. It's a great demo for us. We generally don't market directly to college students because of all the past problems. And so we're working with these guys in a partnership where if you purchase using Topingo and use your MasterCard, we'll give you a $10 credit on your MasterCard. So that program is going to be launching in 2 weeks. So we see a lot of value and a lot of promise in working with these smaller companies. And again, the way you get these deals done is you've got to be here in Silicon Valley. You can't just fly in, spend a couple of days and fly out. You've got to live here. You've got to spend a lot of time here. I'm probably in the city or on the peninsula, 4 days a week, meeting with customers and brainstorming on things we could do together. So quickly, e-commerce enablement tools, very, very important for us. Driven a lot by some of our issuing partners. Digital wallets, very, very important. We have a product called Masterpass. It's a really unique product in that it allows for faster, simple, and secure checkout for merchants. It's not card specific, so it supports any card. It's card agnostic. It's omni-channel agnostic. So again, this is an area where, if we created a technology that was only for Mastercard, it wouldn't work in the marketplace, right? So we had to take a step back and say, hey, look, this needs to be something more, right? So you can put your Visa in it, you can put your Discover in it, you can put whatever it is as well. So very big, important initiative for us. 250,000 merchants have already adopted the platform, and we continue to support that this year. So digital, our data is really important. So we started a data business about 5 years ago. The idea is we had tons and tons of data, right? We know a lot about what people buy with their Mastercards, right? And so we took that data and we created essentially a consulting firm with it called Mastercard Advisors. And generally speaking, Mastercard Advisors, the solutions fall into 3 buckets. One is know your customer, right? And so what that means is basically most of our customers have these massive databases. We can actually go in and help them look at their consumer databases. We can slice it up a little bit. We can take a look at what their customers purchase vis-a-vis their Mastercards and then create a profile on that customer base. So it helps them know their customers, what their purchase habits are, what they have a propensity to buy. When you know a little bit more about what your customers do when they're not on your site, it makes marketing to them a lot more interesting. The second area is something that we call measurement, right? And we have a product called Media Measurement that links online ad purchasing to offline transactions, right? And so if you think about it, one of the big problems that a lot of merchants have when they're purchasing online ads, especially if they're trying to drive offline consumption, is how do you close the loop? So we have a product called Media Measurements that we sell to a number of big publishers that actually will close the loop, right? So a merchant can run an ad on a big site. The ad says, go to Walmart and buy something. We can actually track the purchases in Walmart. Let's say the Walmart's in Dublin, California. We can actually track the purchases in Dublin against a control. So we can say, these people saw the ad, these people didn't see the ad. What type of lift is Walmart going to get from the people that actually saw the ad? And then so we can actually close the loop with the advertiser and say, hey, your advertiser is not only reaching people, but it's actually causing them to do something. It's causing them to go into the store and purchase products. And finally, we have something called ACT, which is basically what actionable stuff, what can you do, right? And so we have a product called Audiences that's basically, a lot of purchase data that we allow our customers to sort of say, hey, I want to reach a certain type of audience that has a propensity to buy, gas on Tuesdays and then goes to QSRs and goes to the movies, right? Well, you can actually buy an audience like that on a variety of exchanges that we have partnerships with. We use all these double blinds and great technology, so we're not releasing PII, but it allows us to target a broad cohort on some very, very specific purchase requirements. And so a lot of our partners are using these types of products to purchase and acquire audiences in a different way. So an example of how I've used this product set was I have a partnership with a big educational company, and they didn't know anything about their user base, right? So they asked us, our advertisers, they only want to buy ads from us twice a year, at the beginning of the school year and then at Christmas. We need to sell them ads year round. Can you help us? And we said, yes, we can help you. So we took a look at their database of 4 million customers. We analyzed it, and we basically came out with an analytic set that said, you know what, your customers actually spend money all year round, as you would expect. Students spend money all year round. But more importantly, they index high for QSRs, they spend a lot of money on gas, fast food, and textbooks, as you might think. And then, went so far as to say Tuesday is the best day of the week to advertise. So our guys actually packaged this up, and then they went back to their advertising partners, mostly in the CPG space, and were able to land a significant amount of campaigns based on this new sort of demographic and footprint on their audience. Okay, so loyalty. I'm going to end with, I'm going a little long, sorry. I'm going to end a little bit with loyalty. So I actually worked out of the Truaxis office space in San Carlos. Mastercard got into loyalty with our acquisition of Truaxis in 2012. Originally, loyalty, we looked at it as something for issuers and banking partners, especially in 2012 when it was sort of the heyday of daily deals and all of our banking partners were acquiring that. But lately, what we found is there's lots of really interesting commercial applications of the loyalty platform. So I work a lot with the team in San Carlos to go and talk to digital companies and say, hey, what are the interesting things that we can do with the platform? Here are some of the customers that we've worked with, and I'll give you a couple examples. So, I lost all my graphics. So Pinterest launched a product called Buyable Pins. Pinterest had a problem in that they're not the merchant of record. So they couldn't actually manage and track any of the transaction flow themselves. So they brought us in, we laid down loyalty rails, and it allowed us to actually track the transaction all the way through, use the loyalty platform to actually serve a rebate vis-a-vis a purchase. And so this has been going very, very well for Pinterest. We're running now on all of their Android apps. We're about to launch on iOS, and more importantly, some of the merchants are coming back and saying, hey, we've seen this thing that you're done on Pinterest, we really, really like it, we want to participate. So I've had 2 merchants call me and say they actually want to purchase campaigns with Mastercard and Pinterest using the platform that we put together with the loyalty rails. Oh, there you go. So basically this is how it works. You buy a pair of shoes, use your Mastercard, you'll get an immediate $20 credit for your purchase using your Mastercard. So the last example that I wanted to have is basically something to do with Twitter. Again, Twitter they didn't want offers from us. They wanted to source offers themselves, but they needed a way to do it. So we did a partnership with them. We used the Mastercard rails. They went out to source some offers like from Subway. So you go on your Twitter, you see an ad from Subway, you enter in your Mastercard, you go to Subway, you actually purchase the sandwich, you get an email that says, you just bought a sandwich, here's your receipt, and then you'll get a credit pushed back from Mastercard onto your card. So that's it. I love old ads. Here's an ad from 30, 40 years ago. Go out and if you're out of cash, use your Mastercard.
Dave, thank you. That was great. I'll also mention before there's a question here that we're taking questions from the audience. So if you have a question you'd like to ask David, raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. I'm curious. I was struck looking at your bio. Having worked with Netscape, AOL, a lot of companies that were poised to take off. Do you feel the same about card linking and the impact that it can have for merchants?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially in the commercial arena, right? I mean, we have a very malleable platform, and so the idea is to be creative in terms of how you use the platform, right? And so we can act as a publisher, we can help them source offers, or we can just give them the rails and let them do the work themselves. What we've found is our customers are really smart. Like Pinterest, it's just incredibly smart folks, right? So they know exactly what they wanted to do. They just didn't have the technology to do it. So we helped them use our technology platform, and they rolled it out in a matter of weeks, and we launched it before Christmas.
Fantastic. Did we have a question from the audience? I don't see any hands up. Let me ask this. So you shared some examples of some campaigns that you've run.
Yep.
What would you say has been your most successful card-linked campaign, and what do you think made it so?
Well, I would say probably, from a card-linked perspective, probably the Pinterest campaign, because one, we had a big problem in that they had a very, very unique payment structure that actually they couldn't handle promotions. If you're not the merchant of record, you can't give a promotion, right? So what their philosophy on e-commerce is, we're going to pass the transaction to the merchant, and then we're going to make our money on advertising, which is fine. That's their business model. In order to work within the constructs of that business model, we had to do a lot of technology work. So we had to lay down these tracks in a way that would allow us to launch promotion. The fact that we were able to do it and make it work in a short amount of time, we launched in about 6 weeks, was fantastic. But more importantly, it's been very, very successful. And that's really what we're looking for. We've seen an uplift in the usage of Mastercard. We've seen outside vendors come in and want to participate. So from that perspective, I think both Pinterest and Mastercard are very, very happy. And we're to the point now where we're saying, hey, this was really good. Now that we've laid down this technology rails, what else can we do? Right? And so from my perspective, that's a big win in the short term for them and their customers, but it's a big win for us because now we have inroads and working with those guys for a while.
Fantastic. So last question, you talked a little bit about the shift in the customer base. You know, it used to be merchants and banks, and now you're really seeing a much larger customer ecosystem. Talk a little bit about what that's like internally at Mastercard to kind of marshal that change.
So don't get me wrong, we're still about banks, issuers, ISOs. I just don't work with any of them. I've never met a bank. So the one area that we're committed to grow is our stewardship and our partnership digital companies, right? And a lot of it stemmed from, quite frankly, from like 4 or 5 years ago. You saw these companies take off, right? Uber is now a top 100 merchant in the world, right? And we didn't have a relationship with Uber, right? And if we were going to continue down that pace, we weren't going to have any partnerships, right? So we made a concerted effort to sort of say, hey, we have to build relationships with these digital companies, and they're not traditional companies, right? And so you need to know how to work with them. They don't have the same wants and requirements as digital companies do. They're not as needy as bricks and mortar companies, right? They're really smart, right? And so you have to go in there on a different level with them in terms of how you work for them. But like I said, our goal is, this initiative is a multi-year initiative. You start when these companies are young and you grow with them all the way through.
David, thank you so much. I appreciate it.